Welcome to the Blackwater Podcast. Today, your hosts Sage and Julius talk about how they met and explore themes for later episodes. We hope you enjoy the show, and if you don't, we'd love to hear about it.
I was thinking about how we met as I was going on my walk. I'm like, yeah, how did I meet Sage? And I'm like, oh yeah, all of it's easily available. I went to John's men's group, met Aiden. Aiden said he was doing mushroom ceremonies in the woods, and I said, can I get your number? Then you're like this mythical creature for Aiden. So it was really exciting to meet you for the first time. I think we tried sneaking into camp. I'm trying to remember how. Oh, no. We didn't tell you that Sean was there. Sean was the surprise, I think, for you.
Oh, yeah. That was that camp out.
Yeah. First camp out was at, what's across from Skin Tight?
The Fern Gully Beach?
Yeah, Fern Gully Beach.
Yeah, that's right. Because I had Daniel with me.
Exactly. Yep. Wow.
Daniel had come down. I think that was his first camp out there as well.
We were the newbies.
Yeah.
That's still one of my favorite campouts. Like when I think about the set and setting of that campout, I still can visualize the candles that Aiden placed everywhere.
He like filled up pretty much that whole little bluff there full of candles.
Mm-hmm. I think we should continue to do that. Take out tea candles out there.
Yeah, why not?
They're so cheap. And I also remember we had the second fire on that beach, and me and you hung out there. That was like,
oh yeah. That was I think it was a really kind of unique and interesting introduction because you were pretty sociable, you were pretty lively, but I could also feel from you that you were kind of on the outside. And from that fire was a great way for you to just fully integrate into the group with like the rawness of Julius.
Yeah. Some people are still recovering.
Yeah, I think that was just kind of the most genuine and authentic way to really meet somebody, especially meet somebody with your level of vibrancy. And
thank you.
I felt like it was the perfect container for that level of introduction, and it was perfect.
And I think I felt so safe.
Oh yeah.
Which has largely been a constant in Blackwater. I feel so safe.
Yeah, I don't think that there's ever been a time that I've been there and felt like I was in imminent danger or something.
Yeah.
There's been some sketchy people out there before, but I've never felt like I was going to be harmed or, taken away.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that was also that time at the fire with you. I feel like I was doing a lot of breath work. I was doing breath work and movement stuff, and I've never been witness to so close of a connection between like oxygenating and energy, and just having like so much shakti, like so much fucking like and it was so interesting to feel like the pulses of the energy moving through me and out of me.
Oh yeah, I remember you like roaring into the fire.
Yeah, and then the fire would get bigger. It was so relational. It was like this fire and me were like so intimately tied.
I feel like at the time I felt very much like Sean did at his last fire the beach down from us in this last camp out, of just being present and holding that space. And I think initially there was a part of me like, what the heck is going on right now? This guy is going nuts. But then it was like, once the medicine started working its way in, it was kind of like, okay, I think this is exactly needs to happen. This is, it's happening right here with me. I'm here for a reason. I've intentionally set this space. So here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got the ticket. You got on the train. The train's moving.
The train's already gone. So I think it was a perfect set and setting.
Yeah.
And I felt like you accomplished quite a bit for yourself on that. I feel like you opened yourself up at least to receiving energy and opportunity.
Yeah, and I've always I think the biggest problem with psychedelic experience is integration. It's integration. And a lot of times I'm not sure if my experience, if I integrated some insight about myself or not. Okay, you know what? I feel like a lot of times I get insights about myself, but it's hard to see the direct connection between a positive changes outside of my life. So sometimes I always want there to be like a cautionary tale or at least some level of skepticism about insights and stuff that we get or changes that we get under psychedelics. I just feel like we have to be very critical of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easy to kind of revolve towards the extremes in those states of beings.
Yeah.
We could be completely dismissive. We could sit there and deny the experience in its entirety, or we can revolve to the opposite end of the spectrum and believe that everything that we're receiving, everything that is coming into our consciousness is, immutable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and go ahead.
I just feel that just with anything, there should be a middle of the road. There should be a balance in what we take in. I've had experiences that under the guise of psychedelia, I perceived and believed that if I chose to, I could end this life just simply by thinking.
I remember you telling me that. That's pretty wild.
And I believe that there is some, I don't know, maybe some relevance to that. There is some actuality to willing yourself out of existence, but I don't think it's something to cling to. And I think that a lot of the insights that we receive under these states is something for us to acknowledge, and we can make the choice to integrate into our daily lives or don't.
Yeah.
I just think it's important to maintain a balance.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the other thing. I wanted to also go in the opposite direction, which is even, let's say that outside of that, no integration was possible, that you could take no insights out with you from the experience. You just complete amnesia or something. I think the other part of this is, and this is probably one of the biggest parts of life, is to be present. But also when you're present in a psychedelic state, especially for me for mushrooms, I feel so connected to the universe in a way, like it's almost like you were part of the oneness before you were born, and when you were born into individuality and separation from oneness. And I can feel that again, I can feel again being part of the oneness. That being said, I have no metaphysical view about what happens before life, but I feel this just who cares about integration? I do care about it, but like just that pure moment of being present with the sky and the sand and just everything moving and vibrating with each other. It's so one of the most beautiful human experiences I've ever had.
And to take that in, part of that integration, I guess, is to hold those reminders in our daily lives, to not necessarily cling to the memory of it, but to relive the actuality of our presence, to our awareness in this nowness that we experience. You know, that's one thing with psychedelics that has always intrigued me, is that I can sit there and remember an incredible experience all day long, but to carry over that kind of lesson, I suppose, into this present moment, to say, well, this was a reminder for me to be present. So now I can remind myself again to also be present. And you know, I kind of think of it in a way, I guess Buddhist. You could relate this to Buddhist teachings of not holding on to the attachment aspect of memory and of life, is to, from a Buddhist perspective, is to release those attachments so that you aren't clinging on to certain vibrations in your life of the expectation of it reoccurring.
And to save yourself from suffering.
To save yourself from suffering, absolutely. For instance, I could say I still have very fond memories of, you know, of various psychedelic experiences I've had over the years, but none of them can serve me now. I think my experience was amazing, but this experience currently is also amazing, if not even more amazing, because it's occurring now. You know, none of those past experiences really mean anything in this present moment, because I'm in this present moment. I'm here now.
Interesting.
I think, to just kind of round it out, it's like I can at least use those memories as reminders to put me back into this state of presence in this current moment.
Yeah, it's funny because being present and being in the present moment can be some of the most enjoyable things that we can do, but I spend so much time actively disassociating, or like a lot of times when I am home, I'll go from one activity to the next, never giving myself that moment of reflection. Lauren has called me out in the past, not recently, but just being like, oh, I watched a YouTube video. Now I'm going to go use the bathroom, but I'll put a podcast on. You know, it's like...
Yeah. I had this insight recently that it seems like the only time that I feel like I can remain still is when I know that I'm going to be out in the woods and I don't have access to anything.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
I was thinking ahead to the potential for us to have a men's circle coming up, and just reflecting on, you know, how I feel in being out in those woods. And I feel really content when I'm out there. I don't feel any draw or need to scroll on my phone. I really don't have much desire to do anything while I'm there, but to be present and to just embrace that presence.
Yeah.
And it's just funny to me that it takes like driving 4 hours to go out into the middle of a piece of property that I've come to know and love so much over the years to get me to that state, but I struggle with it in my own home.
Yeah. Yeah, our homes are like perfectly made to distract us, and we craft them that way.
Totally. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can craft them to also harbor your creativity and
they can't. Yeah.
Everything else, you know, it's like
we don't have to make them traps.
I love the accessibility that phones give you. I love the amount of information that we have within our grasp. But I mean, if I didn't have a cell phone with me at all times, like, we don't really have like a conducive environment for distraction in our home. At least there's plenty to do because we just we're trying to start a farm here. We got lots to accomplish, but
Mhm.
we don't have like a TV set up in our living room or bedroom or anything like that.
That's cool.
And it's such a relief
Mhm.
sometimes to be like, wow, if I can just find the if I can just find the wherewithal to put my phone down for a while,
Yeah.
I can actually like pick up a book, or I can go outside, and there's a lot of joy in that, I think.
Mhm.
But lately myself, I haven't had the ability to pull myself out of my distractions. I've been kind of lazy with that recently.
What are they? Is it a
Mostly
phone game?
scrolling shorts on YouTube.
Gotcha. Is it an app you could uninstall?
Yeah, yeah, I suppose so. It's like, how many apps should I continue to uninstall?
Oh, I do it. I do it all the time. Like a lot of times it's Facebook. Facebook will get downloaded on my phone, get uninstalled from my phone. It's currently on there.
I did the same thing for a number of years until I finally decided that enough was enough.
Yeah. So you're
I've
saying you're on the video wall? I'm sorry. Video wall, right? The Reels.
it's like Reels.
It's
I
TikTok,
think
right? Facebook, TikTok.
YouTube calls them shorts.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll just get on YouTube, turn on their little shorts, and they're just like little 45-second clips.
Have you ever heard
And
of
I'll just,
dopamine fasting?
oof, wow.
Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I haven't employed it in quite some time.
Maybe we should check that out because I hear you. Those shorts are so good. That's why they think because it's like little squirts of dopamine. I'm guessing it's
Oh yeah.
dopamine. Maybe it's serotonin. Probably dopamine. And it's like a little bit. Oh, and it's like yeah, keep feeding it. Give me them little squirts.
It's funny. Like, I can wean myself from that drip, um, on various platforms. Like, I was that way with Twitter for some time,
Mm,
especially once I got really involved with the NFT community there, and I was constantly like checking the app, checking my notifications. Oh, who's messaging me? Just really, really on top of that. But somehow or other, I've weaned off of it, and I feel a little clearer from that. But
mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it's also this like, it feels almost like a need to stay like attached somehow
Mm-hmm.
to this to that dopamine
Yeah.
that dopamine drug.
And
I,
there's not anything inherently wrong with it. In fact, it's a system that is great. It's a great part of who we are. It's just it's so easy for us to let them get hijacked by stuff.
yeah, and at what level do you like end up sacrificing your own productivity, um, and meaning for your life? And I think for me, I don't know, something about this winter season is already kicking in.
Mm,
Just kind of traumatic experiences from the past and reliving these kind of depressive episodes that I've experienced before. And
yeah.
it's like I'm currently in this battle of like, I don't really need to embrace these depressive episodes as I did in the past, but they're still like creeping in for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe perhaps instead of scrolling on YouTube, I should get some vitamin D outside.
Uh-huh. Yeah. The best thing I've been doing for myself lately, and there's not a long list, is every day around noon I'll go for a walk. And
Yeah.
oh my God, that's like talk about little input, big output, positive output. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
I'll come home, I'm like,
Yeah, it changes your whole perspective. I mean, even just I had a similar experience. I haven't really committed to a daily practice, for some time as far as like physical routine. But I noticed the other day I was starting to get kind of irritated and agitated and grumpy, and we were out and about. I think this was the night that we went ice skating, and I don't know. I was just not in a good mood. And then we started ice skating, and it was like that rush of just physical exertion, all
Mm-hmm.
those pulls pumping through my body and into my brain is like took like 20 minutes of that, and I felt like a brand new person.
Yeah. Wow. I went ice skating last night with Lauren,
Oh,
and
that's super cute.
I haven't smiled that much in I don't remember how long.
Yeah,
Like,
it's so good for you. It's so good for human beings to move their bodies, and we've like adjusted ourselves in the right way so where we move enough to accomplish what we feel we need to, and then we don't like to move anymore.
exactly. Yeah. Well, we like to. I don't know. I guess it depends on the person. Some people are so good at moving. In fact, some people do it too much and hurt
Perhaps,
themselves.
perhaps.
Yeah. But yeah,
I
probably
think,
the lion's share of Americans are what you said. Yeah.
yeah, and it's kind of become a programming for us that like we work really hard during the week, and then we take the weekend to sit on our butts and veg out. Like,
Mm-hmm. And that's like the reward. The vegging is the reward.
yeah, it's like it has become more of a reward to like relax, and maybe we just need to kind of shift our perspectives of what relaxation entails. Like, I can feel pretty relaxed while I'm, out working in the garden.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's just a shift in our understanding that maybe I just need to make that shift.
And say it again, the shift in understanding between what and what?
Just like what our reward systems are.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to just physical activity.
Yeah, I'm writing that down. What are our reward systems? For some reason that hits me. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I've been playing Elden Ring. It's a game, I beat, but it turns out that there's a PvP part of it. And so I'm putting a fair amount of hours in this game. Don't tell Fran. And as I do it, sometimes I have this question about what am I doing? Why am I investing this time and energy? Sometimes I can get into addictive little cycles. Sometimes it'll last a day or half a day, where it's just like all I want to do is play and play, and I'm intermittent video game addiction. Has it's not the first time in my life. But it's so interesting watching it play out. It's almost like that conversation we were having about integration and being present. Some parts of being in the game, you have to be so present because a lot of it's about reaction time and real-time strategy, where someone is coming at you with a knife or a spear or a spell, and you have to be so present and so... You have to be able to react, a couple different ways depending on what happens. And it's sometimes you get the state of flow, which I feel like is a state that feels so good to us. And for me, I have a lot of unhealthy ways to get flow. I remember the first time I ever went to the mountains, I remember driving up there in the truck that was trailering everything. I had gone up with a friend of mine from a motorcycle shop. And I just remember looking at the roads and looking at the cliffs right off the edges and thinking, I'm going to die. And then later that day, going as fast as you fucking can, chasing people through these corners and just being like, I'm in love with being like, I'm so present. I have no fear of death. It's like, it's not healthy, but it's a beautiful state.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's something also that comes, benefits come from that balance perspective. That
Yes.
middle of the road perspective.
Yeah. And here's one thing I'd like to explore with you, not necessarily right now, but over the course of our lifetime, is balance. But in order to strive for balance, we have to know what the goalposts are. don't you think? And so for me, I don't know what I've voiced this to you where I feel like I have a lack of goals. I have a lack of created meaning in my life. And so that calculus of what I should be balancing between, the conversation doesn't make as much. It's less of a conversation to be had because I don't know what I'm going for. I'd like to live in Costa Rica part of the year.
Oh, okay. Is that an actual goal or is that just...
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know because it's like I'm in a relationship with someone who's in grad school. Grad school will probably last for 3 years, at least more, maybe 4. And it's like then something happens. It's like I feel like wanting to move to a physical location, or at least that being a goal. So let's say money wasn't a problem. Okay, it's easy. Logistics, not a problem, easy. It's like, but if you're in a relationship with someone, moving to a different country or some kind of pattern like that is more complicated.
It can be, yeah. I mean, there's certainly a lot of just kind of interpersonal complications that arise.
Mm-hmm.
I know in my present circumstance, in my present relationship, that just would not be possible without the inclusion of my partner.
Exactly.
You know, I think even just the conversation, I mentioned it around the time before Aiden announced his journey, that I might want to go to Alaska to work.
Yeah.
And it was like struck down.
She's like, you're part of this household. You have to...
Yeah, we are a functioning unit. We will no longer continue to function as a unit if you're not in the unit.
Yeah. If you fly away, you can't be in the unit.
It's interesting when you start exploring those kinds of like ideas, and how how ultimately they will work. The cohesion with others can be difficult to manage sometimes.
That's very true.
Yeah. I think that, you know, as a result of that, you can either, you know, sacrifice your current situation, or you can just adapt your goals.
Yeah. And for me, as someone who I feel like most of my life I was built to accommodate people and built to serve people. I feel like the way that I was raised in the Unification Church, and I think inside my family, although I've been a spoiled brat to my parents many times, I feel like I have internalized that I should be there to serve. And so sometimes in thinking I'm there to serve, I lose myself. And I lose my goals. So you talking about changing your goals to meet your situation, just hearing that to me is a little triggering.
I can understand. I mean, honestly, it's hard for me to even come to that kind of conclusion, because I feel like I've come from a similar structural background. You know, I've always felt like I was supposed to put my needs second to others.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes, especially in relationships, I don't even really consider my own thoughts or goals even to be prioritized.
Yeah. And it feels like to some degree, so much of life, that ability to put your needs or goals in the backseat is so functional in communities.
Yeah.
I guess you just hope that most of the community's goals are shared between the individuals.
Yeah, and that's so hard to find.
Yeah. And I guess for you, obviously, I guess any relationship is going to have structural limitations. I was saying any relationship, like inherently, maybe this is my understanding of it, inherently has limitations. So you're in a relationship with Fran, and it's amazing, but it's inherently limiting, I think, in some way. You have this relationship, I guess it's harder for you to move around. But that's not bad. That's just a the nature of relationships. I think that they can narrow a path.
Yeah, and I think it's a good way to kind of define a line for me to follow, at least in my situation. It's like I felt in the past that I was a little too uh what is it called when you have too many options?
Yeah, there's a term for it. It's called analysis paralysis.
Oh, wow.
It,
Okay.
it has a real term.
Wow. Yeah,
It's
and it's like yeah, I can see just breaking those down, and that was very much my situation where I had so many ideas and so much ambition, and just constantly coming up with new things to do and never really doing anything.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or literally feeling a sense of paralysis where I felt like I couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes putting myself into situations where I literally couldn't do anything. Working at Starbucks for 12 years and being so upset about it, but also not sure if I could do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, being in a relationship, especially a long-term one, a fully committed relationship at this point, this is actually the longest relationship I've ever been in.
What are we at now? More than a year?
We're coming up on 2 years, January 9th.
Wow.
And to be honest, this feels like the most focused I've ever been on like a single path in
Mm-hmm.
a long time. I mean, so I think that there is like maybe a sense of sacrifice, or maybe a sense of like I kind of see it as more of a refinement
Mm-hmm.
of path taking, of goal orientation.
Yeah.
Um,
And you and Fran are very aligned on a lot of very important things to you guys. Like, I feel like you guys, that's the nice thing about your guys' relationship, your couple, is that you do seem to agree on a lot of important stuff.
yeah, it's definitely a contributing factor to our success.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think we would just drive each other crazy.
Yeah, and I'm sure you do to some degree. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's cool. 2 years. That's like at that point the honeymoon's pretty much over. So you're like, you got the real deal. You're seeing whatever. You're probably seeing pretty close to whatever the heck it is that you have.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think so. For me, it's strange. I've never been, I haven't been in too many relationships to begin with, and the relationships I have been in were very fleeting. So this feels like the real deal for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't necessarily feel concrete in the sense that everything is established, but it's like the formation is settled in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
We're really getting a well-rounded picture.
Yeah. Also, too, I think one theme that is pretty strong in our Blackwater circle, I feel like so many of us are. John pointed out that maybe I have some Peter Pan vibes at a couple campouts ago, and I feel like certainly. It's hard for me to dodge that one, but I feel like it's kind of a shared characteristic among a lot of us. And for you, I feel like certainly like you had some of that, and then to go from a very single relationship existence to jumping into a very intimate family. You became. I mean, we can talk about semantics and what should be and shouldn't be, but basically you became a dad.
Yeah. Within a year, it was a full functioning family household.
Yeah.
Yeah, navigating that has definitely been interesting, but it feels pretty natural. It feels like, like it's been all along. There's just all these little extra appendages, kind of like vestigial appendages that we're still trying to figure out what to do with
Yeah.
in this situation.
Mm-hmm. At the last camp out, Asher said something. I'm trying to remember the context of it, but it was like, maybe like, do you have anything else to say or something like that? And he's like, I love Sage. And I was like, wow. Just like
Yeah.
how important now you are to this human's life, you know?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and you know, in our communications, Fran and I are really honest about just the reality of our situation, and not to like make any wrong predictions or anything, but we've been pretty forthcoming about the fact that if our relationship doesn't function well in the future, that we spread apart, or whatever may be.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't just be like a her and I kind of thing. It would be an infliction upon many people's lives.
Wow. Yeah.
That's I wouldn't necessarily refer to that as a burden, but that is something to be conscious of.
Uh-huh.
And I think that we've been very deliberate in the way that we've been moving forward in our relationship and coming together, and buying this house, and all of us moving in and building a farm. And there's very conscious steps to how this has been moving forward, and it has to be considered. These kinds of things have to be taken into question. And I think at this point, if there was any doubt, we would have gone ahead and drifted away. But
Mm-hmm.
I think because of that level of analysis, we've only just become stronger. So I think that it's been advantageous for us to even explore those paths.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think it's great though that the kids, the kids are just such loving souls.
They
They're such
are. You lucked
loving
out.
beings. Like, I mean, it's a direct result of Francesca.
Yeah.
It's
She,
been her loving energy.
she's a super mom.
Super mom for sure. She's created some super kids
Mm-hmm. She totally
who
has.
can be super annoying sometimes, but
Yeah, I bet.
that's children,
That's
and
people that
they,
you have to live close to.
yeah. I mean, that's just family, and I think that any of those qualities are balanced out really well with, you know, supreme compassion and
Mm-hmm.
loving kindness. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it's like when you become a. It's funny because I feel like in a lot of these conversations I've had with like other fathers, like especially the men close to myself and my life, who have gone through like the entire process, I feel like I've hit like the cheat code where I've skipped all
Yeah.
the early years.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You went from like single dude, totally single dude, to now I'm a dad in a family with a how 11-year-old, 10-year-old, and
Yeah,
a 4.
I met them when Asher was 3 and Issa was 9.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the best time to come in, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But it's funny. I'll relate to people and be like, when you become a dad, you realize that like these small people can say and do some of the most like ridiculous things imaginable, and then inversely come back with the sweetest things in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're so raw and powerful.
They really are. Like it's a real kind of humbling experience to just witness like the development of such rawness.
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
it really is like a coming together of like a molding of an individual.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, and here I am just like this witness and role model, and just trying to be as positive of a navigator as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wow, I feel like this was like the most concrete way to like align me onto a path and keep me moving forward. Otherwise, I feel like I would have become like a rambling man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember dreaming for a long time about just hitting the road and just like hitchhiking for years.
Yeah.
I think that I would have like snapped and just like burned all my money and
Mm-hmm.
disappeared into the woods.
Yeah. I feel like we've talked about that off and on. Is there something we'd like to open up or put a bow on, or something looking into the future for our next podcast?
I think that these kinds of conversations are just really, really powerful to have, and I think that it's great that we can just connect in this way
Mm-hmm.
and share these insights with one another. I think that it's great that we're able to, kind of build upon these themes and ideas that have been correlated into our lives from these campouts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what really encourages me to continue to look forward to these, especially these kind of men's circles. There's just something that I feel compelled to explore amongst a men's group that is harder for me to, I guess, convey with like a full-on community. Maybe it's
Oh
a
yeah.
little more
No,
managed.
I think the size is the thing. I think, yeah, it's so much easier to just really get to the core of it when you just have a couple people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what?
Yeah.
Am I on the same train of thought as you, or were you trying to express something different?
No, that's right on par.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that ultimately it's been great to have a community, but it's like, I don't know what my realization was for this past camp out is that I may not even necessarily be interested in medicine when it comes to like a full-on community group.
Right. It's a different space.
It's a much different space. It's like community. I feel it's like we want to hang around the campfire. We want to play music. We
Mm-hmm.
want to talk and tell jokes and tell stories. It's like we do all those kinds of things with medicine anyways, but I think that there's a greater concentration on I guess just higher goals.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
and not just being high.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Elevated consciousness.
Mm-hmm. I felt, for me, the best recent camp out that for me felt very potent, it was when it was just me, you, Aiden, John, Sean. Am I missing someone? But for me, that one just felt very potent. It was very intimate. And I feel like it was actually not very long, but we created this container of intimacy and openness where I feel like it was the most group therapy of.
Oh, you mean last or this past February?
I completely have forgotten what month it was in. It was fairly cold.
Was that the one where we had opened up discussion to have some kind of reciprocation between our check-ins?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yes. Yeah. We were doing a lot of check-ins.
Yeah.
Very potent check-ins. And yeah, that was the one. Sean became very emotionally open.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that having that kind of exchange is important for our like interpersonal development,
mm-hmm.
and as a result, part of our community development as well.
And
I just feel like there's this level of vibrancy that comes from these specific containers that we create for ourselves. And I just don't feel like oftentimes in a community sense that those containers can be opened in a way that is going to be conducive for the group as a whole.
Right. Yeah. I think society's. I'm a product of feminism, and
Yeah.
so I feel like a part of me wants to resist the idea that there are these inherent differences between men and women, and whether they're biological or environmental or whatever combination of both. I think historically, cultures have made it important. It seems like a lot of them have made it important for these groups of men to separate from the community for a little while, and to engage in these transformative acts, manhood rituals or whatever they are, or yeah.
And same for the feminine as well. Having I know that Francesca has expressed that she would like to coordinate with the women of our community to come together.
Yeah.
Form their own circle and carry on that way.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And I don't know if it has to be that way, but if it does, I'm inclined to say yes. Small men's groups can be very transformational for me. Yeah. And also too, whether it's about gender or not, when you're in these small groups and you create these safe spaces where I can show myself to you, maybe show parts of myself that are not pretty or I'm scared of, and to do it in a safe space where you and the community can give me that a space and to feel held inside of, I can be seen. And when I feel like parts of me that I have to hide or I'm not happy with, if I can show them to people and feel safe, I feel like that's so healthy for me. And I feel like when other people are seeing me, even my ugly parts, I feel like now there's a connection. And then when I see your ugly parts and you feel safe with that, I feel like an incredible bonding opportunity or experience.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of goes part into the, I don't want to call it necessarily the separation of the sexes, maybe just like a distinguishment of those different energies. And I think that oftentimes when men are with men and women are with women, that bonding happens a little easier for us in our respective parties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a lot to that. Yes, I agree.
There's not like an exclusion. I think that it really is just an alignment of energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
an alignment of those core energies.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can relate to and connect with other women very easily. I mean, I'm a product of feminism myself. I was raised by a single mother for the first 6 years of my life, like constantly, I was raised to revere the goddess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think as I've grown older, I've recognized just how important it is to also be able to recognize the masculine and to embrace this energy as I relate to it in my life. And I just find it so important for other men to come together in a way that we can connect and bond and share our experiences and heal from traumas that we may not have even really taken the time to poke at or to expose or even know how to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I just feel in our day and age, those kinds of energies have been, or those kinds of motives and like ceremonies have been almost all but lost.
Mm-hmm. We don't have. We're largely a people without culture.
Yeah, and a lot of those kinds of cultural
Or let me rephrase that. We're completely embedded in cultures everywhere, but we don't have cultures that go back to knowledge traditions or something like that. Our culture is like American Judeo-Christian.
We don't really have like a coming of age ceremony anymore. Like,
no, at least for us. I feel like to some degree, I feel like if you're in the Christian community, I would say that maybe you could point to some coming of age ceremonies, maybe for Christian faith that what do you call it when you have this moment where you accept Jesus? Some people, anyway, like, I think Christians kind of do, but we're outside of me and you are outside of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think just as a society, there's just not much of a focus on those kinds of rituals in our practice.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like it's important. Maybe that's something we can, revive up in future conversations as well.
Yeah. Yes, please.
I think that'd be cool to do a little bit of research into. To see what other groups may be doing.
So you're talking about what? If I was to make a Google query, what would it be?
Maybe like men's circles, divine masculine, energy work. I don't know. There's it's kind of hard to know how to navigate in this day of wokeism.
So are you telling me that we should just get John's done a lot of research on men's groups? He's connected to a larger organization that helps train and seed them. I think maybe he would be a good person to talk to.
That would be awesome. Maybe we could call him up for an interview or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what we could do? I would need a laptop. I could probably just use his. I show up to a place that John's at, and then we Discord you.
Wow, that'd be so cool. Oh wait, I got a U-Haul pulling up to my house. That's interesting.
Hey, anyway, that's probably a good place to end. We can reach out to John, considering these our lost culture with these men's groups, and I guess as my limited understanding of anthropology, I feel like maybe these things in my life that I feel like are missing, meaning, goals, maybe even a strong sense of identity. These are things that I feel like my understanding of these events is a lot of these rituals are a lot about identity and meaning. Certainly identity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as humans, we constantly struggle with the concept of identity and what our identity even means to us, what it means to others.
Who are you and whose stuff is in that U-Haul? Is it yours?
Yeah, I have no idea. I wonder if it's like one of those Amazon guys that just decided to rent out.
Yeah. Hey, Sage, shall we end it there? Shall we end it there?
Yeah, that might be a good place to stop.
Okay. I love you, Sage. It was good to talk to you.
I love you, Julius.
I'll talk to you soon. We'll reach out to John.
Okay, that sounds good.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you will join us for our next episode where we will be talking to John Hazim. John uses shamanic and somatic therapy techniques, runs a local men's group, and offers coaching and facilitates retreats. We love you, wish you well, and hope to talk to you soon.